Oh boy. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Monday Mashup, talking all things Week 5. Didn't get to preview it because we had a baby that was born, but we can review it. We're talking about Bama taking down Georgia's kryptonite, if you will, Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. Listen, LSU, in my opinion, we talked about it for weeks, wasn't a top-tier team. This win's good. It's not great. We'll dive into that. Tennessee holds on against a surging Mississippi State. The Ducks hold out in a whiteout. And I'm not talking about the whiteout around the arena. I'm talking about Dan Lanning doing, a little snow in the middle of October. That kind of whiteout. And FSU, you lost. We're going to talk all about that today. And Sam Pittman was let go. Cody, the professor, joins us here. Rocking and rolling. And no cowboy tie. Cowboy tie is unable to make it. All good, though. We will continue to surge on. It is interesting. I do find it very ironic that the first week that FSU loses, Ty isn't here. Doesn't have the time to talk about it.
We had another co-host like that once.
Yeah. The FSU losing puts him in shame. No, Ty's got some stuff going on. He's good. He's not quitting because FSU. The guy rode through a 2-10 season. All right, so I don't think he's going anywhere. Appreciate it, man. Thanks, Jason. Much love, man. Baby number 2, he's rock and rolling. He's at the doctor's appointment right now with mom. So get him all first little checkup, making sure he's all good in the hood. He looks good, so we should be good to go. But Cody, great weekend of college football, man, and I feel like we're just gonna continue on this path of greatness. How you feeling?
Oh, pretty good. Shout out to a lot of the guys that hung out this weekend for the game stream. We rolled right into the Buffs debacle. So, we were on about 6 hours. It was great. Scott 020 was up in there. IB Mac, using our sponsorship, won some money. Said he put every time there's a touchdown turnover, he just put $10 down no matter what on the Virginia game. So, it's all good with the high top boys.
I love it. I love the boys rocking and rolling, having some success this past weekend. Yeah, I remember you watched that Colorado game, man. They completely just gave it away. There is just too many times where Colorado is just throwing games away, self-inflicted wounds, and it continues to be coaching error. Just time management once again. A lot of the same error. Look, it seems very familiar to Napier in some
echo.
Oh, go ahead.
It's echoing bad.
It's you again. Go ahead.
Are you there?
Yeah, we're good now. That was my bad. My bad, boys.
Oh, my gosh.
That was on me. That was on me.
I got my Roadcaster app pulled up. I'm like freaking out.
We wanted to hear you
better,
twice.
Guys.
It should be good to go now, yeah. Cody sounds like an old school trucker talking on the CB. I mean, honestly, we can go back to that. That would be,
Nah.
Sometimes the way this thing is hooked up is just a quick little flip of the switch. But Sam Pittman getting the boot, getting canned by Arkansas after a brutal loss to Notre Dame. Look, there's a
bigger headline. Our boy Todd Grantham, real fast. He signed a $4 million deal for 3 years, or $6 million deal. He only coached 4 games and got fired this morning.
I saw yesterday he got fired. Wow, I didn't realize he signed I didn't realize he signed $6
million. It's all due, baby. It's all due. He coached 4 games, got $6 million. Are we in the wrong biz?
Holy cow, man. We've talked about this before, and it continues to happen with this coaching situation. And look, we always want to get mad at these kids and talk about they've ruined college football. No. These coaches are just as guilty of it because of their contracts. They're absolutely ridiculous. We're giving these cats guaranteed how Todd Grantham landed a guaranteed contract with the production that he has had. Give me that guy's agent. That's who I want representing us, landing us some sponsorships, because we would be guaranteed with everything. It has to change. And look, I mean, the crazier thing is that all these coaches have the same guy representing them. Sexton. I mean, he represents Napier, Lane, Norvell, DeBoer, Lanning, I think. I mean, there's a handful of them that he's just running amok with all of them. And he is just, I mean, I can only imagine what his percentage is of all this guaranteed money. I mean, he's making more than probably the coaches by the time it's all said and done because of how many of these guys got locked up. But to think that Napier going like again, it's always easy to do kind of like that after the fact and look at it once it's all said and done. To sign a guaranteed contract coming into the SEC with very limited production, very limited of proven ability to do the job at this caliber, to get fully guaranteed. Now, look, if Florida goes against Lane, you're going to be in the same predicament, as you should be. That is somebody who you should take the risk on of going and getting a full guaranteed contract. This should be treated just like a rookie. Just how we've been clamoring for these college kids. You shouldn't walk into from a high schooler into a freshman with a $5 million contract, Texas Tech. There's no different from these football coaches that have never coached. Well, Billy was a head coach before, so maybe his guaranteed's a little better. But Dan Lanning, now he's done great things at Oregon. He wasn't a head coach prior to that. There should be some leeway of like, look, like we're going to pay you, and maybe there's a contract renegotiation after 2 years. Even for Sam Pittman, what they did is if they waited to fire him because if he went under 500, the buyout was less. Yeah. So that's why they waited. So even put that into to standard of like, look, like we're going to give you this guarantee, but if you're 20-22 after 4 years, you've got to pay us back. That should be a clause somewhere.
That little deal's $1.5 million per game for Grantham. That's what that turned out to be. $1.5 million a game. And guess who did it to him? Our old Baylor Bears put 650 yards up of total offense on him, and they said enough was enough.
Oh my goodness. We love our Baylor Bears out there. The boys they're low key cooking it. They went down to a good Auburn team in a close one week 1, but they've been on a quiet tear since then. So they have been fun. Did they crack the top 25?
Baylor?
Yeah.
No.
I don't think so. Before we get into it, we're kind of a little bit of a tangent before we dive into the show here. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe. That's what's nice about doing this show live on Monday morning. The juice is flowing a little bit different than on Sunday night. The AP poll came out, and it's just, I don't even care to look at it anymore, dude. I don't know what it is. There's just...
Well, the AP voters don't care to watch college football either.
That's what it feels like. Here's my thing. I was looking at it last night. I go, if the season were to end today, are we okay with the top 12 teams? Like, and that's how I think you have to address the voting every single week is like, if they were to end right now, are these legitimately your top 12 teams that you would be like, yeah, these are your playoff teams?
I think that the AP voting is too fast. Okay, so like me Agreed. And you watch a lot of college football.
Yeah.
Okay, if you gave me the assignment to make the top 25 teams, there's no way even I could watch that many games condensed to know who the top 25 teams are Sunday. Because it drops Sunday. Dude, that's 24 hours to watch 3 hours a piece games. Like, you're not going to get them all watched. So it needs to come out on Thursday. That's what I think. Every Thursday, big reveal. Or Wednesday, best day of the week. Every Wednesday, AP poll drops. That gets you all fired up for Saturday. You have all that time to move the graphics around for the graphics team and everything. It doesn't need to be Sunday. That's just my feeling. Because there's just no way you're watching that much football.
I completely agree. I think you're spot on. I don't know if there's a point to like advertising dollars of like, hey, we've got 2 top 25 matchups. You know what I mean? Or 2 top 10 matchups. I think the logos carry enough weight. I think that's kind of...
Dude, you could almost do a reveal show every Wednesday. I mean, it would... You would be fueling... I mean, this is what the NFL does so well, right? But you could literally drop, just like the SEC schedule, just drop the AP poll every Wednesday, and then we got something to talk about every single Wednesday. Oh, let's see who moved. Oh, let's see. Because when it comes out on Sunday, number one, you're almost tired of football at that point. It's, a lot of people doing a lot of things on Sunday, going to church, whatever. And it's just like a kind of a day of relaxation.
The reset.
It's a reset. It would bring a lot more eyeballs to it if it was dropped on Wednesdays.
The fact that BYU played it, they played till 1:00 in the morning, and this thing came out next day. So you're meaning to tell me all 50 people were watching? Yeah, I think you make a good point there. But look, this is kind of where I was like frustrated. Look, obviously we have the AP poll and the playoff poll, but I'm hard fetched to think that this doesn't influence the playoff poll. That's why I think it is important. But right now, LSU was the number 3 team in the country. They dropped to 13. Excuse me? How does Bama, who lost to FSU, get ahead of LSU when they lost to FSU, they weren't even ranked?
So here's the biggest jumps right now. Ole Miss at 9. They jumped 9 spots to number 4. Yep. We had Alabama jump 7 spots.
They love it. They can't help themselves.
Georgia lost 7 spots, which is wild.
Ridiculous. Because that was a 3-point game.
Yeah. Over a 3-point game. And then LSU lost 9 spots. I don't know. That kind of feels right. They've been living on that razor edge. They can't run the ball. There's some questions there. The defense did not look good. Ole Miss put them up. Florida State lost 10 spots for losing a game. 10 spots. That's a wild for a close game. It's not like they got blown out.
To now a team who's ranked. Right?
Yeah.
Dude, it's the weirdest it's ever been. And look, to the point though, we said it last week when we went through it. I mean, you looked at the top 20 teams and you're like, all these teams, in my opinion, can be. Mizzou's undefeated, ranked 19th. Mizzou's ranked undefeated, and they're behind a 1-loss Georgia, a 1-loss LSU, a 1-loss Tennessee, and a 1-loss FSU, and a 1-loss Bama, and a 1-loss Texas. I don't get it. I don't. And a 1-loss Penn State. Penn State should have fell more because based on their criteria here, I don't know. It's losing its value, like you said.
I just don't know how you drop teams 10 spots for less than 7-point games.
Yeah. Georgia getting that boot was crazy. LSU, I think you're spot on because they haven't really looked the part. They've been sus every single week. So,
yeah,
I'm okay
LSU
with that.
I'm okay with. Yeah.
And Ole Miss has looked really good. Ole Miss has looked very promising and kind of went in and did their job. I'm okay with that. Texas continuing to move is crazy to me. They look very Texas-like. And Ohio State, in my opinion, is a number 1 because they haven't really done anything.
Miami dropped a spot after winning a game. What's that about?
Week 3 or 2?
No, they just dropped a spot on the AP poll.
Miami?
Yeah.
No, they're 3rd. They were 4th. Were they 2nd? They moved.
They dropped 1 spot. Yeah, they were number 2. That's what it says. 1 spot. They didn't even play. Yeah, they must.
I guess Penn State was or Ohio. It was Ohio. That doesn't make any sense because LSU.
Ohio State. It's Ohio State, Oregon. Oregon jumped 4 spots.
Well, rightfully so. They've been right on the cusp, and they looked really good. So we'll talk about them in just a minute. But yeah, all interesting stuff. And Sam Pittman obviously gets canned. Bobby Petrino steps in. Full circle moment for him. The 4th coach fired now. 3rd coach, 4th coach.
We've got Virginia Tech, UCLA. Bobby Petrino already working the back door. He fired the defensive line coach, the defensive coordinator, bunch of spots on defense.
Wow, he's just canning everybody.
He's canning everybody. He's taking that thing over. That's going to be your new Arkansas head coach. Congratulations, you went and hired Bobby Petrino after.
Oh, you don't think he's not the interim? He's the guy. They're not even going to move on.
Guy. Yeah, you don't get to. You don't as an interim. You don't get to be firing people like that. He's putting his squad in.
Time will tell. That'll be an interesting move there by them, just to kind of, I would say, go from one to the other, kind of just chilling.
Yeah, keep them away from the Harleys and the young blonde assistants.
Yeah, it'll be good to go. Let's talk about Bama versus UGA. Bama back, looking absolutely just revengeful, if you will. I feel like Saban has there's a great episode from How I Met Your Mother, and it's kind of like that when somebody has that ick, like someone chews loud or they say all the time, and when you're with them, you really don't notice it. But this whole episode is about like calling out that person's like weird nuance, and then once you like hear, like breaks the glass, and you just hear it constantly. I feel like Saban has that on Kirby. Like, he knows what his weakness is, and he just gives it to DeBoer. Because how this guy continues to lose to Alabama is beyond me. Look, I do think that I said at the beginning of the year that Georgia is not the Georgia of past. They're definitely going through some trials and tribulations. I think with this new NIL era, unable to control things that they're used to controlling. I still believe that Kirby is a phenomenal in-game manager and handles it very well. Great game. And again, huge bounce back from Alabama. They're looking the part. And again, I think that because a lot of people picked Alabama to win the championship, the national championship, that they're trying to make people forget that FSU lost as quick as possible. That's what it feels like with this AP poll voting. You got absolutely curb stomped by FSU. We didn't forget that. You went in to be a good Georgia team. I'll give you some respect. And look, I got to kind of eat some words because I put Georgia as one of the top teams in the SEC, right alongside Oklahoma. Right, so those were my two teams at the top. But Bama looked good. Bama, the play calling was great. Very West Coast-esque style move. Ty Simpson has looked phenomenal. Very impressed with how he has looked. Again, I said on yesterday's show that the teams that showed up with no quarterbacks, Mizzou, Bama, Tennessee, all look fine at the quarterback position.
Georgia's quarterback is looking pretty good too. I mean, Gunnar Stockton's out there slinging it. He has wide receivers again that can't catch the ball. I'm gonna say this. This might be a hot take. I don't really care. I don't believe in Kirby Smart anymore. After the Elias Robinson debacle, he jumps in late, gets the PI, almost could have been targeting also. He goes back to the sideline. You let the 5-star literally smile about it, and then you put him back in the game. You've lost total control of your program. You have lost 100% control of your program. That kid should have been out and running lap. He should have been running the bleachers for what he did. He has lost total control. They are not going to win another national championship. Dog fans are calling for Kirby's head. It's just an accumulation of. I think that they have hit their pinnacle, and I think that there is a loss of control in that locker room. Ellis Robinson not taking coaching from the DB coach. DB coach tries to talk to him. He waves him off, rolls his eyes, and then has another Georgia, Pine Rider sitting there laughing and telling him he's fine. And it lost them the game. There's zero. The old Kirby Smart would have yanked him up by his face mask and went nuclear. They've gotten soft. Georgia football is they're going to be a good team, but they are not going to win any more titles because they have lost that locker room.
Wasn't ready for that this morning, I'll tell you that.
I was so furious on the stream seeing that. We're talking the same 5-star that got absolutely cooked a couple weeks ago. They went after him over and over and over.
Yeah, I remember you talking about the Tennessee game, right?
Yeah.
You
don't have anybody else at DB? You don't have anybody else that you can throw in there?
Their secondary has been thin. I mean, that was a concern. They lost a lot of guys to the NFL. So, again, they had a lot of talent coming in. There was expectations from KJ Bolden and Ellis Robinson to do great things. But, here we are. So, interesting stuff, man. Look, I haven't seen where Georgia fans are calling for his head. I feel like that seems a bit asinine at this point, no?
Oh, it was on Twitter. They're pissed because they can't beat Bama.
I mean, I get it. I get it. Look, in this new age, too, because a lot of people were saying that,
Which is why, hold on. Which is wild because they were nobodies before. They weren't beating Bama before Kirby Smart.
So like they're beating,
they're a mid-tier SEC team, right? I'm not saying Kirby Smart is a bad coach. I'm saying there's something going on there. He's checked out. There's no accountability. There's no leadership in that locker room. There is something to where, and we've seen it with all the offseason shenanigans, and it just keeps these close games. They just keep finding a way to lose.
Could this turn into your KC take? Or you feel confident about this one?
No, this is 100%. You cannot allow kids to talk to coaches like what Ellis Robinson did and laughing on the sideline after getting a personal foul and pretty much losing the game for him.
Look, I think there's been a big conversation. I got Georgia buddies, and he always says like, hey, like how Kirby carries himself is like, hey, if you want to be here, be here. If not, then you're not going to play. That mentality of like, look, this is how Georgia football was ran. And we even heard Urban talk about that in the clip from yesterday of like, look, if you don't want to be here, I'll help you into your transporter. I love that mindset. There's a fine line that you can gamble with that. And I think that Kirby probably is trying to figure out that spot maybe. I don't know. But it's definitely a challenge that a lot of coaches are facing. Some are thriving in it. I think Lane has got it figured out to a T in a weird way. His personality is kind of fitting into this new world of NIL of like, we're going to have fun, but I'm also going to kind of call you out. It's weird. It's a weird way of managing these kids that again, some are making, as much as you are and kind of have a different approach to the entire situation. Look, I'm going to reserve my comments to say that Georgia is cooked until I see a few more because look, their backs against the wall against Tennessee. I think but they drop both of those games, that conversation definitely heats up. I will say, look, I said at the beginning of the year that I felt that Florida had a great opportunity to go in and beat Georgia, and I still feel that way as long as, someone else is calling the plays, then offensively we can do some great things. But I love it. Cody's on fire this morning.
I just find it very concerning you're having the same problems that you had last year. You have wide receivers that drop balls and wide open wide receivers dropping balls. The same thing that plagued them last year. Okay?
Yeah.
The same exact thing. They lost multiple games because they dropped big time balls. And then you have defensive players out doing whatever they want. That's the same thing. That's the same thing that happened last year. The PIs, the off script, just doing whatever you want, not doing your job. There's no accountability on the defense. That's not what this Georgia dynasty / was built off of. I mean, there was accountability. Those old Georgia defenses, if you messed up, Carter or somebody was going to get in your face. It wasn't allowed. And this isn't coming from a Florida fan. This is coming from just a college football spectator. They haven't fixed anything in 3 years now, and you're going to get the same result.
Yeah, it's interesting that again those egos we talk about with Billy. Now, Kirby had a better foundation that you can kind of get past some of those errors for a year or two. That third year, it's going to start coming out more, especially because the expectation for Georgia football is so high that they're at a point now. It's like, hey, you're not making any change, you're not making any adjustments. And we're seeing the same thing. Look, coming out slow has been a big thing.
They've come out slow for how long?
A year and a half, 2 years. Yeah. And then, the wide receiver thing, I thought with Zachariah Branch and the addition that they would make will be, look, I will say, if you would have told me at the beginning of the year that FSU's wide receiver room would be more successful than Georgia's, I would have probably giggled. But man, the Deuce Robinson's been looking fantastic over at FSU along with Squirrel White, although he did the catch, which we'll get into. But I love it. Cody's on with this morning. I don't think you're off on the adjustments not being made. I think that there's probably a little bit of goggles of it's Georgia football, and Kirby usually figures it out. He talks a good game, so it's easy to kind of get sucked into that. But it's definitely not the Georgia football of old, especially allowing an Alabama team coming into your house. That's something they had to have had a record, I think, at Sanford of not losing a home that was broken Saturday.
I don't remember the last home game that they lost.
Yeah. Like, it was in Alabama, maybe
like
you could toss it up a little bit, but go ahead.
Yeah. I think it was like 2 years or something. They had a really healthy record at home. And it's not even it almost feels like Georgia has like this mental block when it comes to Alabama. Is this the best Alabama team we've ever seen? Absolutely not. They can barely run the ball. Jam Miller's banged up. He comes back with some carbon fiber thing over his collarbone. There was plenty of mistakes on Alabama side of the ball. It was a very, very entertaining game. They have a lot to clean up. Are they the number one team in the nation? Absolutely not. I don't believe that in Alabama. I think they're playing decent ball, but I think what happened was the mistakes and the lackadaisical starting from Georgia finally has caught up with them. And when you go against a team that has just as much talent as you can't come out lackadaisical. You can't get passing or PI or personal fouls. You can't do stuff like that. You can't drop balls for wide open touchdowns. It's going to get you beat every time.
33 straight
when
over.
it going,
33
yeah,
straight for winning at home.
when it going gets tough in the playoffs, you're going to see exactly what we saw last night or Saturday night. That's it. You're going to be a one-time bounce out of the playoffs against a good team.
Yeah, look, to me, 5 weeks in, I still don't feel like we've seen a dominant team. And that's okay. Like, I mean, obviously Ohio State didn't figure it out until the last week of or not even the last week, first week of the playoffs. But there's really nobody. Again, Oklahoma looks good. John Mateer only going to be out for a couple of weeks, but like I still feel like they're sus. They have question marks. Their inability to run the ball. I think defensively they've got some holes as well. Everyone has a hole that can be exposed by a multitude of people, which is exciting. It's good for college football. Miami, in my opinion, probably looks. Again, they haven't looked great though. They've handled business. They look very LSU like. They have some question marks that I think a good team can expose. Oregon. I would argue Oregon probably looks the best, and we'll obviously get into that game here in just a minute. But yeah, Bama UGA, great game, but yeah, could be a slippery slope for them.
I will say Nate Frazier didn't look great, but Chauncey Bowens stepped in, had a great game. That's the Georgia thing that is always scary though. They get a running back hot, watch out.
Yeah, it was cool seeing Chauncey Bowens. Obviously, we know we were in kind of a recruiting battle with him, but with his third year now, so he was sophomore.
I think he's a sophomore.
Same class as Jaden Ball. That's who we kind of swapped out, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Ole Miss, LSU. Lane comes up big, wins the big one, puts his nuts in the line, man. My favorite play of the game was the 4th and 3 play calling. Just a great design play. It's fun to watch a team that hey, we can 4th and 3, we've got to play for it. We've got to play. It's a 98% success rate of us converting this thing. Brings out the little tight end or whatever he was, kind of into the flat, and you got all the motion out to the right side. Quarterback rolls out that way, and then complete opposite direction. He's wide open, needs 3 yards, and just great discipline. Gets down, and everybody knows. Even Lane or Brian had 2 timeouts. He just said, "Whatever, we're done." And then what I loved even more is after the game is he calls out Chamblee, their quarterback, who's looked phenomenal, by the way. Going to be an interesting situation here in the next couple of weeks when Austin Simmons comes back from his injury. He gets out of bounds, stops the clock, for making LSU not have to call a timeout. And Lane is just beside himself on the sideline, and as he should be. It's like, dude, what do you didn't even do anything.
Yeah.
You just ran 400 yards sideways. Like, you didn't even make a difference. And he goes, look, like, I'm glad Chamblee made up for it after he was losses to the game in his post-game press conference, which these are the things that I was talking about. Like, just that ability to say things like that. It takes a certain personality to say it and handle it and say it right. There's plenty of people who say it. Brian Kelly tries to say these things and talk this way, but it comes off cringy. It comes off ignorant when he says it. It really does. Like, you can literally have Lane and Brian Kelly say the exact same dialogue, and when Lane says it wrong, I'm like, he's got a point. And Brian says it like, you look like a douche. Like, it's
that's because people don't like Brian Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, that point,
he's greasy.
People don't like Lane either. There's a group of people who don't like the way that he carries himself. But again, it's all about delivery and just the personality, the persona that they carry. But again, the LSU issues that were talked about for the last 3 weeks, which were Garrett Nussmeier does not look good, and their inability to run the ball, all came to a head. And it makes me even more frustrated. I mean, I was already frustrated about the Florida game, but LSU or Ole Miss didn't do anything spectacular. Like, this was a pretty kind of grimy, ugly game too, and then they were able to pull away. But LSU's defense still did a phenomenal job. LSU was in Florida's position where their defense was just like, we're gassed, bro. We've been out here for the entire football game. Like, we can only do so much. I know the scoreboard shows it a little bit different, but it's very similar to Florida. Like, offensively, like, it's 3 and out. Garrett Nussmeier, who was rated for a lot of us our best quarterback, and Will Miles came on this show and said Garrett Nussmeier is not good. He's not going to be good, and doubled down on that. A lot of hot takes in this preseason. That was one that I remember that because we were high on him. So far, he's batting 1,000 with how Garrett has looked up to this point.
Little tough when you can't run the ball, and it's wild to me that they were able to run the ball. What they would do is they would take their big tight end Green, they would roll him in tight, almost like a wing T offense, and then they would bring their wide receiver type, motion them in, get an extra kick out, seal block, and then they were able to run the ball off tackle. They couldn't run it between the tackles, but they could run the ball off tackle with Durham and the other running back. Green has been out, and ever since then, they can't run the ball. And
the tight end.
Your whole offense not being able to run the ball because you can't run out of one formation and without one player is a huge red flag to me. You can't even salt games away at this point.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able, say you're up 2 touchdowns with 5 minutes left, you're not even going to be able to salt it away because you can't run the ball because your big tight end's hurt. And hats off to the tight end being a very, very good, big physical. I think he's like 6'7" blocker, great blocker. They have always struggled to run the ball under Brian Kelly. They're not physical enough. Hats off to making the adjustment to find a formation you can run the ball in. But once you lose that player, it seems it's nothing. They can't do anything.
57-yard total offense. And look, this team, who in my opinion could very easily have 3 losses right now. Clemson came down to the wire. Florida should have won that football game, and now they lose to Ole Miss. Again, only 197 yards passing. They've got South Carolina, then Vanderbilt, then A&M, then Bama, and then Oklahoma. This LSU team that was once poised to go and take this thing off. Look, people, when they won LSU, were saying they're the best team in the country. I was like, absolutely. Like, that was pretty adamant that they weren't. We pumped the brakes quickly.
All those teams can run the ball very well, and when you can get a run game going against that LSU defense, it's over. Ole Miss ran the ball extremely well against that LSU defense. Listen, you talk about being gassed, you talk about whatever, what Weeks puking on the field. I don't know if his daughter had him out partying all night or what, or Lane gave him a little Visine and some water, and he was getting a little bubble guts, but I'm gonna say this. It's one of those things where when you have to throw it to win and you're going up against teams that run the ball extremely well, Vandy, South Carolina, teams like that, you're probably going to take an L at the end of the day.
This team, this team feels very Florida-like. Maybe that's why Brian Kelly was so supportive of Napier. They've scored 17, 23, 20, and now 19. And they scored 56 against, against LIU, essentially. So they have, and they scored 23 against Louisiana Tech. That was who their 23 was against. And again, Clemson, obviously, we know the Clemson FSU.
That's the game Nussmeier got hurt.
Oh, and with Clemson and Florida, we kind of know those two teams. So, yeah, they've got an uphill battle. Again, they're a team that does not look very concerning or much of a threat in the SEC at this very moment after a couple of weeks of football. Even though they're 4-1, doesn't feel like 4-1 for them. Tennessee, great. Massive win for them. Mississippi State, though, man, and Levy. My goodness. Some things they have done. Talk to us about this game and how you feel about Tennessee versus Mississippi State, man.
Tennessee, another team that's riding that same LSU razor-thin margins. They are a team that will probably lose a lot of close games and probably win some close games. Are they a elite playoff contender? No, they have some problems. They have 2 very good wide receivers that they throw to. I can't remember their names, but very, very good. Running the ball is hit or miss. Again, we talk about teams that are running this razor-thin kind of, if they're going to win or lose. They run the ball great at times. Other times they don't. The defense is suspect at times, and that is the problem. A defense that they leaned on last year and years prior. You can see that there's some issues. They picked off Blake Shapen for a pick 6. They also got a scoop and score, so there's 14 points there. If those plays don't happen, Tennessee loses by 2 touchdowns. So it's one of those things where, yeah, you had some great plays on defense, but are those type of plays going to happen every week? I don't think so. You're talking 14 points from the defense. That's a lot to ask for. Mississippi State looks like a good football team, as wild as that is. That's a tough environment to go play. There's probably 7 points there with the cowbells and everything. It goes to show that it doesn't take 5 years to build a program.
Yeah.
Okay. Levy has that thing absolutely cooking. They were not good last year. He went and raided the transfer portal yet again. They got to do some stuff unconventionally. JUCO, Division II, find players. I mean, they're up against it at Mississippi State recruiting wise, because I mean, you have Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Ole Miss, right all in that same kind of Gulf Coast area to suck up all those players, and it's tough for them. So it's one of those things where it goes to show you, if it ain't working after year 2, you probably should fire the guy, because Levy got pretty much ran out of Oklahoma, and then has turned this thing kind of into a little bit of a juggernaut. And I think they should be ranked, even after the loss.
I agree. 4-1. I was kind of surprised that they're not ranked. I mean, look, we kind of had a whole rant about this AP poll earlier, but look, I said it yesterday. They look like a team in year 4 that's in year 2. And when you look at the portal additions, and we talked about it on SEC Media Day, they're not sexy. They're not flashy in comparison to what Oklahoma did in the portal. They went out and got some dogs. Mississippi State did not do that, which speaks to a lot of things. One, they went out and put a team together that they felt that they needed to compete, and they're being coached well and developed well. That's what I'm seeing right now. And again, the growing pains they're going through. This loss to Tennessee is a growing pain, is expected, is anticipated for a year 2 new coach like Mike Levy. Like there's a little bit of leeway that if you're a Mississippi State fan, you're pumped. You got a lot to hang your hat on and should be excited about heading on into the rest of the season. Tennessee's schedule doesn't really look too daunting. They've got Oklahoma and Bama, which are probably your 2 big ones. Vandy, obviously. We'll see what this Florida, they got Florida late in the year. You never know. That game's always obviously a toss-up, but they've got an opportunity to kind of slowly get it done. They've got to still win some big ones. Again, Oklahoma is, for me, it's what John Mateers is going to do and what how they can figure it out. But that's so late in the year. There's so much more room for things to kind of get figured out. But, man, it's crazy to think that we're almost halfway through the season already. We're heading into week 6 this weekend, which is, we always say, it always flies by, which I hate. But great game. And again, a phenomenal weekend, to say the least, as it has been. Let's get into the Ducks in Penn State, man. This was an instant classic, rolling into overtime. We had Dan Lanning just coked out of his mind afterwards. I mean, that guy was through the roof. James Franklin, and not able to win the big one, continues to be the storyline here. Dante Moore. I want to pull up my text for my proof. I texted Derek the Duck before the season started. I go, I think the Ducks lost some players. And here's what's crazy. When you think about these, when we talk about some of these teams, Georgia, Bama, Ole Miss, Oregon, what do they all have in common? Those teams didn't feel like they were coming back with this powerhouse that they normally do. New quarterback at the helm, having to turn over some players. Georgia obviously takes the L, but Oregon looks better than last year right now. And the reason being for me is Dante Moore. Dante Moore looks like an absolute sniper out there, an assassin killer. Dylan Gabriel was good, not great. Dante Moore has the ability, and I said this to Derek the Duck, the ceiling for Dante Moore it's unreachable, if you will, because of how good he can be. His composure back there, just jogging out in overtime and just slinging the win without a care in the world. Drew Allard, and again, kudos to our guy Ty, has never been a big believer in Drew Allard. And Drew Allard essentially lost him that game. I mean, you gave up, 13 points, what caused it to go into overtime, and Penn State's defense is what is as advertised. But even Oregon, to kind of just get into a gritty one, not their typical style, these teams, because of the portal, are morphing into, Big Ten football's always had an identity and a style of how they've navigated. And SEC's always had a style, and obviously the Pac-12's always had a style, the Big 12. It's interesting watching a lot of these conferences have kind of just crossover now, where these Big Ten games are, seeing Oregon in a 13 matchup was uncommon, if you will, in that environment. And to go into a whiteout, again, they had a big win like this last year against Ohio State, but that was at home. This was on the road, so big time win for them. And look, it's still early. We've seen Oregon do this before, but I don't know. It feels different than last year's Oregon. Last year's Oregon never really felt powerful to me. This one has a different tick to it at the moment. And again, I was huge on Penn State. They were my team come this year because of the returning production they had alongside Clemson, and get taken down to a young team.
Yeah, I was always suspect of Penn State when they lost Tyler Warren to the draft because they had no offensive identity minus running the ball 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And I thought when you got against some of these other teams in the Big Ten, aka Oregon, that they were really going to struggle. And Oregon comes out with a big win. Dan Lanning comes out with a big win at Penn State at night, whiteout game. I mean, it's one of the toughest environments out there. Good job to the Ducks. They had some bumps along the road. They had a fumble that really hurt them. You know, was it the most entertaining game to watch? No, definitely the Bama Georgia game was a much better game. We were kind of flipping back and forth. It was kind of locked up for a while with no offense, like 9-7 or something like that.
Yeah,
for like 3 quarters, and then it kind of took off. But you know, Dan Lanning starting to win games that you have to win to become, you know, in that national championship talks. I would say.
I mean, they were last year, right? I mean, they were right there. I mean, you can't ignore Dan Lanning and what they're able to do, and their ability to recruit is unmatched. Real quick, there's two super chats from 904 Wheeler, 99 cents, and then $2. Says Sam Pittman is headed back to UGA recruiter. Yeah, I haven't seen that break anywhere, but I wouldn't be surprised. I've said this since he's left. Their development of O-line has been extremely sus, and that would be a fantastic landing spot
guy
for
to
him.
do it right there.
Yeah. A fantastic landing spot for him to go back to. And the guy's lovable. His ability to recruit and develop, that would scare me. If I'm Florida, that's who you need to go get. That guy is an absolute baller when it comes to that situation there. All right, last little bit here, boys and girls. I hope you guys. Well, actually, real quick, huge shout out to our sponsors here. I almost forgot here. Prize Picks. This show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Right now, they're having the max discount. So Jalen Hurts is the one that's being advertised at this moment, where basically you're getting a gimme with under or excuse me, more or less with the passing yards of half passing yards. So take advantage of that while you can. I've been putting some lineups together. Last night I was extremely close with I had Jordan Love, had the Moore, I had what I came short upon was Ferguson, had less than what I needed. And then I thought our boy was going to have a reunion coming off the edge. What's his name? Packers.
Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons. I had him for more than 0.75 sack, and he was just nowhere to be seen. So took an L on that one, which is how it works. But this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day on Prize Picks. Being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it is good to be right. Prize Pick is a simple play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 players, stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Join millions of users and sign up today. Make sure you guys download the app and use the code HIGHTOP to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code HIGHTOP to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. I'm looking forward to being right here eventually. I might put a little lineup together tonight. I'm having some fun with it. Honestly, I've been just riding off of the free cheddar that I got. So that's kind of how I lost all the initial cash already. Dude who's good at these things is Swolder. I need to have him send me a little pick 'em so we can get rock and rolling. FSU takes a big loss on Friday night in a great game. Great game to kick off the weekend. Arizona State TCU didn't disappoint either, but we're not talking about that one right now. It was nice to see because of how FSU has looked, how dominant they have looked in every asset of the game, to get kicked in the mouth. Offensively, Virginia was just a fit to handle. I can't really blame it on FSU's offense. I mean, they were scoring at will. They had some turnovers that put them in kind of to a hole, very similar to the Tennessee-Mississippi State game that they had to come back from. I think they were down 14-0 pretty quickly, and they brought it back, even took the lead. But defensively, FSU just wasn't there. So look, the defense we saw against Bama, which I was like, man, if this is a similar defense, they're gonna be a force to be reckoned with. Does not seem to be at that same caliber. And again, this is what I do love is that all these teams look beatable. How this team is now headed into, or Miami's headed there this weekend, another big time matchup. This is where a team like this could get fragile because you've got a bunch of portal additions. How does Thomas Castellano handle the leadership? How does he handle the loss here? How does he pick himself up? I'm not saying he's not going to. I think it's coached very well. They got a lot of good with their coordinators, but it will be something to monitor headed into this season. And I wonder because kind of very Arkansas-like how they kind of built in a very good replacement coach with Bobby Petrino. FSU's in a very similar boat with Gus Malzahn. Like, yeah, your buyout's big, but you've got a great transition piece. You're not, you can kind of call it quits, and you've got a good piece. I'm not saying they would. I don't think that's going to happen at all. But this team looked very different Friday night from what I've seen the past 3 weeks. And what I mean by that is it felt like Norvell, kind of like Billy, was almost like envious that the love was probably not going to him. It was going to the coordinators because of how different things looked. And it was like, I want to play. I want to get my hand in the pot a little bit. That's how it felt Friday night.
I think it's a typical Gus Malzahn ran offense. Sometimes it's running and like hot grease, and it's absolutely cooking. And then sometimes it's.
I mean, dude, they put up 38 points. It wasn't like
I understand that, but listen, teams are getting tape on this offense. They're going to start slowing them down a little bit and doing some things. Also, when you're running that kind of offense, there is when you run it 1,000 times, you're going to fumble the ball every now and then. I don't think that this team's really going to splinter or fracture off one loss. You can't turn one loss into two. That's when, problems start happening. But I think FSU is fine. I think that they have plenty of weapons all around to keep that thing going. I'm not canceling them out. I'm not saying the season is over for them at all. They run a offense to where, it's gonna move the ball up and down the field. They're gonna have opportunities to score. Like you said, they scored 38. Defensively, just kind of chalk it up for kind of a bad night. Sometimes you just don't match up well against teams. I'm gonna call it as that. And I believe FSU is going to be just fine. My question is, when you start getting closer to these talent level of teams, is the defense gonna start to fracture a little bit? But we'll have to see that for another weekend.
I mean, they put up over 500 yards of offense, so I'm not sure I can blame Gus on this one. You give up 46 points to Virginia. You're gonna have some hard times.
I understand that.
But look, they've got a stretch here. They've got Miami this weekend, then they've got Pitt. Pitt will give you fits.
They're going to give Miami absolute fits. Circle that game to be a great game.
Which one?
Miami FSU.
Oh yeah,
that's going to be one of the games of the week. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Florida rolls them. I think offensively, I don't think Miami's going to be able to slow them down.
FSU rolls them.
Yeah, Florida State. Yeah.
My question is when they go up against a defensive line like that.
True.
Are they? I
always forget about Miami's trenches. That'll be a good test. I think, especially Thomas Castellano. How will they manage? The linebackers. I've got questions on Miami. So how will the speed be? Right. I think that'll be interesting to see how they hold up. Offensively, Miami hasn't really excited me, and I think that I think FSU will have an answer for them defensively. I just don't think Miami's going to have the firepower to keep up with FSU. FSU hasn't. They've put up 31, 77, 66, and 38. Like they're rolling offensively.
If Miami can hold this game to a ugly 21 points,
100%.
I tip the cap to Miami. I think they'll be able to run the ball kind of at will. But it's going to be a good game. If this thing starts to lead into a shootout, it could get nasty fast.
Yeah, Miami's ability to run the ball. I agree. I think it's just who can set the tempo is where it's going to be. If FSU can go out there and get into how they look to get this fast and quick and slice and dice, this Miami defense will be tested. The holes will be exposed, and then things can bust open pretty quickly. But yeah, it's going to be a great game. It's going to tell us a lot of.
it really all hinges on how Carson Beck sustains drive. Because if you can run the ball well, which they will be able, they're going to be able to run the ball. Miami will be able to run the ball with that offensive line. They're going to be able to protect Carson Beck with that offensive line. What they're going to have to do is keep Cassiano on the sideline. You're going to have 6, 7, 8, 9-minute drives. Kind of like what we saw against Florida. I mean, it felt like
just suck the life
they
out
would
of
get
you.
the ball, and it would be like a 8-minute drive, and the quarter would be gone. And you're like, where's the quarter at? Like, it's all gone. That's what they're going to have to do.
Look, it relies on Beck. What is he going to be able to? He hasn't looked good. Outside of that first game against Notre Dame, he hasn't looked his best, and I think that's where it's going to be. Look, Miami fans are upset. Says I like high top, but sometimes they say dumb things. Nothing about FSU so it shows they can roll Miami. Just look at trenches. Look, I agree with you. The trenches 100% Miami dominates, and I'm all there for you, Ralph. Like I hear you. I just feel like the speed that Thomas Cass, his ability to expand the pocket, can expose some of those things. I felt like Bama's trenches were better than FSU's, and they brought the intensity and were able to overcome those things because of Thomas Castellanos. The guy's slippery, dude. The guy is greasy when running down the football field. It's hard to take down, and that can really expose some things. And again, I think the linebacker play is where my sus is. I 100% agree. I think offensively that Miami will be able to move the ball, but Carson Beck hasn't looked the part. Even though Miami, I would say, dominated Florida. I mean, you only put up what 13 points for 3.5 quarters. Your FSU's not going to not score. Like, that's my thing. Yeah. That's where I think FSU can roll away with it. But great Monday matchup, boys. We will see you guys later on tonight at 8:05. That's Cody the Professor. I'm Shelton. Shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Hope you guys enjoyed this Monday matchup. We know we did. See you guys later tonight. Peace and love, baby.